Ram presents the Canadian tradition.
Well, being able to have the opportunity to come out to the beautiful province of Alberta every year and go after a Rocky Mountain elk is something that I just get so excited about. To go after something that is 900 plus pounds, you can call in, to be able to have a big bull respond. I mean, when you get that sound behind a 900-pound bugling bull elk, I mean, that sends chills right down your spine.
The Canadian tradition is brought to you by Ram. Guts, glory, Ram. Cabela's, world's foremost outfitter. Under Armour, go where you don't belong. Polaris, the world leader in off-road. Steel, get the job done. Winchester, the American legend. Nikon, the trusted name in optics. And by Barnett Crossbows. Get after it.
One of the things I love about elk hunting, I mean, yes, it's the animal. Second is the wonderful meat you get. Third is just the places that these elk live. Some of the scenery that you see out here in the beautiful province of Alberta is simply breathtaking. And it's such a game-rich environment. We can be out looking for elk and come across moose, mule deer, whitetails, all doing their thing, all living, call it copacetically. And everything is just so magical to be able to spend time in the woods, to be able to get out in glass and see a variety of different game. I mean, that's one of the things that honestly keeps me coming back, is because when you wake up in the morning, you never know what you're gonna see. And some of the things that you do see, you might only see once in your lifetime. And it's just so special to be out here and to spend time in the field. When it comes to elk hunting, these are big animals. In a lot of the cases, you're only going to get one opportunity, especially this time of year when these elk are grouped up. I mean, we've been out to Alberta before in the same general area, and we just see big herds of elk. So when you have to make a shot, you may only have a small window because that bull's going to be coming through with 10, 20, 30 different animals. You want to be able and know that you can put that bullet exactly where you want it. This hunt started like most of our hunts, and we weren't going to change anything. We got to camp, we sighted in our firearms. This week I was using Winchester's new firearm, their XPR, had it chambered in 300 Winchester short mag. And first and foremost, I wanted to make sure that gun was on. I mean, when I left my place, that Nikon scope was dialed right in, and we wanted to know that you can put that bullet exactly where you want it. You know, one of the things I like to do when I'm at the range is try to mimic a real hunting situation. When you see us out in the field, we don't have a nice bench to work off of and make that shot. A lot of the times you're either going to be leaning up against a tree or shooting off of shooting sticks, and that's what I like to do when I get to the range. You know, that way it kind of builds practice. I know exactly what to do when that shot presents itself. So we'll take a shot, see where we're at. Well, after getting that firearm sighted in, it just gives you confidence. Now I knew that anything that happened on this hunt would be on my shoulders. And that's a big relief off your mind, because when you get into a situation, you have multiple animals and you have to make that shot. You don't have a lot of time. I mean, walking away with a gun and especially good optics that allow you to know exactly what your bullet's doing, not just at 100 yards, but out to 200, 300 yards, just gives you so much confidence in being able to make that shot. In most cases, a lot of these shots are your shot of a lifetime, or at least your shot of the season, and we weren't going to take any chances on this big elk hunt.
Closed captioning is provided by Toyo Tires, driven to perform.
Coming to Alberta, and especially sharing a hunt like this, means so much to me. You spend a lot of time on the road and you're by yourselves, but every year when I can come out to Alberta and hook up with my good friends, I mean, this week we're teaming up with Sean Steidel. Sean and I have just done a pile of elk hunting, mule deer hunting, antelope hunting in the past. And you know, it seems that we only have 5 or 6 days to spend together, and we really try to jam a full year of hunting into those 6 days, and they're just so valuable. They're long hours. You know, at times we have some disagreements, and usually at the end of the week we have a good animal on the ground, and we have shared just a pile of laughs. When a person thinks about elk hunting, I mean, for me, elk is a very special animal. These are just big animals. They have huge antlers. To me, they're sort of prestigious. I mean, you can hear these elk bugling. When we get out in the mornings, there might be 100 to 150 elk in some of these big agricultural fields, and you might have 7, 8, 9 different good bulls. And we saw that firsthand last year, and we had a huge herd of elk come down. We're able to sneak into, I would say, probably 175 yards. There's 2 big bulls in there, and couldn't get a shot at that big herd bull because he was 5 or 6 cows deep. The second biggest bull presented a shot opportunity, and I took it. And you know what? Those are the circumstances that you look back on. We didn't get the biggest elk there, but we were still there. We were still in the moment, and we connected on a good bull.
Gear Tech is presented by Ameristep Blinds. Quality hunting from the ground up.
When it comes to game calls, Flexstone really has it all. From turkey and elk to duck and electronic predator calls, I trust Flexstone when I head into the field. These calls are designed with a soft, flexible passage chamber that mimic the anatomy of mammals and birds to produce these truer, more natural sounding calls. Flexstone encompasses a full line of deer, predator, turkey, and waterfowl calls that use this patented technology to their advantage. It's important to remember that the more natural sounding the call is, the more animals are going to respond to it. Ultimately, the more success you're going to have in the field. One of the things you have to be prepared for too, I mean, you hear me talk about it when we go on remote hunts, is having the right gear, being prepared for anything. Here we are, you know, we're not too far out of a major city in Alberta, and we're experiencing all sorts of weather in just a 3-day span. Being this close to the Rockies and having different weather patterns move in just really amplifies what you have to be prepared for. We can have rain, the next day it could be 20 degrees, and the next day there can be snow on the ground. So having the right gear, and especially when it comes to packing, you want to be lightweight, you want to be mobile, but you also want to have clothing that you can put on, because some of these times we're sitting for a couple hours on end waiting for these elk to move, and the last thing you want is to be cold, last thing you want is to be uncomfortable. You just got to stick it out, have the right gear on your back, and just be prepared for anything. When it comes to elk hunting, it can either happen on the first day or the last day. The only thing that I know is you have to be in the field every day until it happens. What's cool about elk hunting is if you know whitetail hunting, you'll talk about a feeding area and a bedding area. Well, when you look at elk hunting, you want to expand that travel route by miles. These things will travel, so being able to get out there and scout, have good binoculars, have good glassing capabilities, saves your feet a lot of work because you don't necessarily have to walk to see those animals. If you get up on a high ridge, then it gives you a good view of where those elk are going, and you can just try to get in front of them. You can pattern them for a few days, which can hurt because you might have to take a morning off and you think, well, I'm not really maximizing my time. But when it comes down to scouting, I really do feel that's some of the best time you can spend in the field is to figure out what those animals are doing. You're not spooking them, you're not interrupting their day-to-day behavior. Then it allows you just to slide in there, get in position, and those animals are gonna come right in front of you. Well, here it is. We're getting set up for an evening hunt. We're actually in a pretty good position. This morning we noticed a big herd of elk go into this little woodlot just to the north of us. We want to get it set up super early. Here we are, probably a good 3.5 to 4 hours before the end of legal shooting light. When you're in situations like this, I kind of go under the philosophy I'd rather be 5 minutes early than 1 minute late. These elk out here in these foothills can see a long ways. So if you plan on showing up 2 hours before the end of hunting time and these elk are already out in the field, I mean, you have to go across 3/4 of a mile of open field even to get close to them. It's past the rut, but these elk are still calling and they're still coming to calls. And what Sean wants us to do is work our way up here, get set up, get tucked in, and just do some soft calling, kind of mimic elk already out in the field and lure those ones out of the woods. There's a nice herd bull in there, big 6x6, really heavy, good long main beams, just the type of bull that everyone dreams of. Well, we're not quite at our spot just yet, but everyone's heard the expression, you have to stop and smell the roses. And it's one of the things I love coming out to Western Canada, just try not to squeak the fence, just to breathe in. I mean, you got the Rocky Mountains in the background, just big open landscapes. It really makes you appreciate how vast Canada is and how small you are. The whole shooting part of hunting lasts for a very short period of time, but it's the week coming out here, spending with good friends, seeing this really makes you proud to be a Canadian. Well, once we got set up, we were relatively close to these elk. I would say probably 300 yards in. I mean, in the grand scheme of things out here in this big country, 400 yards is not that far. Well, we just got to our spot. We can actually hear the odd cow when we're walking in, cow calling. This time of year, the less calling, the better, but you do want to create some curiosity. You don't want to get on this bugle call and let out big yelling bugles, because that's not what they're doing right now. Just soft cow calls is kind of what we want to do. But we still have lots of time. Get to sit here. And this is my office for the afternoon. Another thing with elk hunting too is that when elk get in these big groups, there's always going to be some animals that are bedded, some animals that are feeding, walking around. So being able to do soft cow calls really helps you. Being able to use some of the good calls on the market nowadays, I mean, you sound like the real thing. And this was going to be my first opportunity to really call at a bull elk, and I was just hoping that he was going to respond. You just wait for that bugle. We should get that clip in that gun though, just in case we pull one out. When you get into calling elk, and again, this is post-rut, so these bulls aren't going to necessarily respond and come screaming, bugling in and run right over you.
It sounds like they're getting closer, like the odd faint time you can hear. I'm fairly sure it's the bull's antlers bouncing off the trees. That's a bugle right there. He's just bugled again.
That first time that I let out that cow call and heard that bull bugle, you just get the feeling that, all right, you know I'm here, I can hear you. We had lots of daylight left, and now it just came down to a waiting game. After hearing that bull bugle back, I was so excited. This bull was, I wouldn't say red hot screaming, but he was definitely responding to those calls, and I knew those cows were gonna come out. They were interested in trying to find me cow calling. Those cows typically always come out first. Then you start to get nervous because with every cow that comes out, you've got two sets of eyes. And the herd bull is usually in the back of that bunch. So you really have to sit still. That bull I watched jump the fence, and I knew I was gonna get my opportunity.
Yes, yes. Oh, I can't believe that worked out.
Being able to see that bull drop and lay in that field with a well-placed shot, I was just so excited, so relieved. What a bull, unbelievable. That bull dropped, he went down. Let me get the bullet out of that guy. Sean's motioning me, he knows he's right down. Fantastic, that's the first bull elk I've called in by myself. They started to cross that fence and that big old bull did not want another bull coming near his cows. And he is, I'm certain, just over that hill. Yes. Being able to see that huge herd of elk jump that fence, come out in the field. I mean, what happened in literally probably 15 seconds. When I look back on it, it feels like it took 5 minutes. Well, we're just packed up going over to take a look at this bull, and I learned a very important lesson, and one that I probably should have known, which is never take your eyes off your game once they're down. We're in a low spot, went to walk up, and there's no bull in the field. But lucky for us, Sean was back there and he was spotting. He said as soon as we got in that low spot, that bull got up, just barely made it over the fence, and he saw it pile up just in the first bit of trees over here. But these are tough animals and a very valuable hunting lesson, which is never take your eyes off your animal until your hands are on them. Dude, right there. There he is. Nice. Nice bull. Just check him here. Beauty bull, Sean. Beauty. Nice 6-point bull, long fronts on him. And this main beam's pretty cool, drops back. Can't thank you enough, Sean. Thanks for having me out here.
Yeah.
Had a couple tough days of hunting, but you know what? Just gotta find the right bull on the right day, and this is just magic. We're having some great stakes and back straps all winter long. Gotta love the province of Alberta, folks, and you can come out here right in the foothills of the Rockies. Bulls every year. This is great.
Outdoor Insight is presented by Berkeley. Catch more fish.
When Andre Steele built the first electric chainsaw in 1926, he probably did not foresee the amazing advancements that would result from his efforts. Today's users want the same elements important to steel, which is durability and dependability. I'm glad to say Steel offers much more in their line of power chainsaws. Take Steel's 181 chainsaw. This saw incorporates some very impressive features that come in handy to any user. This saw incorporates Steel's easy to start feature, which provides a smooth, effortless pull in order to start the saw. And not to mention, it greatly increases the safety factor when starting your saw. Another perk about this saw is that it contains Steel's quick chain adapter, which allows any user to adjust the tension of the chain in just a few easy steps, without the need of using any tools, providing you with more cutting time and less downtime. Always remember to wear the proper safety gear when operating any power tool or chainsaw. And as Steel says, let's get the job done. Looking back on this trip leaves the guy really trying to find words on how to describe it or to sum it up. I think elk hunting and coming out here is just something you really have to experience to understand how hard you work for these animals and just how special that opportunity is when it's presented in front of you and you make a great shot and you can put a good bull on the ground, and to walk away out of here with just that whole experience, to share it with a good friend. I guess tradition would be the best word to describe it, and this has become my 5-year tradition that I've been elk hunting and spending time every fall with Sean, and that's one of the things I'm gonna always remember and definitely try to continue each year, because words just can't explain how cool this is.
The Canadian tradition has been brought to you by Ram. Guts, glory, Ram. Cabela's, world's foremost outfitter. Under Armour, go where you don't belong. Polaris, the world leader in off-road. Steel, get the job done. Winchester, the American legend. Nikon, the trusted name in optics. And by Barnett Crossbows. Get after it.
Follow The Canadian Tradition on Facebook and make sure to visit thecanadiantradition.com for news, contests, and show recipes.